sign in and connect with Kaylee and make sure that you have the worksheets that we'll be using today. So welcome to Resiliency Champions. And just thought that it would be a great idea to check in on how you're feeling today. So pop something in the chat that is representative of how you are feeling right now today. Anyone want to get it going? There we go. Thank you, Caitlin. Lindsay. Jane, I can relate. So as you are selecting your representation, and you can use words too, but as you're identifying how you're feeling in the chat, I think the thing to just remind ourselves of is that there's a whole range of how we feel, just those of us who are on this call right now, and those who will be tuning in to the recording later on. And when we arrive at work each day, if, there are some uncertainties and some certainties, and one certainty is that how you're feeling isn't probably the way others are feeling, and how they're feeling may or may not be the way you're feeling. And I thought that what we would focus on in recognition of the fact that May is Mental Health Awareness Month is that we would kick off today with mental health awareness and move into beyond today into a session that focuses more on depression and sadness. And then the next one will focus more on anxiety and nervousness. And I had mentioned last time that we would go straight to depression and sadness. And as I was really looking at that, I realized that we needed to back up first and just talk about mental health and feelings and emotions and kind of lay that groundwork. So this will be the first one today, focusing on mental health awareness, feelings, emotions, those types of things. And then the next session, we will go to depression and sadness, and from there to anxiety and frustration. And if there are other areas related to mental health and mental health awareness, we can continue beyond May. That month doesn't contain our conversation. I want to make sure that I do what's helpful. So you are always welcome to pop in the chat something that you would like for us to address in a subsequent session, or you can just go ahead and message me confidentially, message Kaylee, whatever way you want to give that information. But if there are particular topics related to mental health and mental health awareness that you really would like to see us cover, be sure to submit your ideas. All right, want to make sure we're meeting everyone's needs. So let's keep going. And our shared agreement today, anytime we come together as Resiliency Champions, we're here because we have desire and willingness, not only for ourselves, but for those around us. In our work setting and in our life setting. There's never shame or blame. And what we are working hard to do is to engage, collaborate, and multiply so that our impact as resiliency champions is felt across the organization and also within each one of your lives, both personally and professionally. So what's our opportunity today? I thought that we would look at the difference between mental health, mental well-being, and mental fitness. One of the things we talk about in Sandler leasing training is mutual mystification. And I think sometimes these words are thrown around and not necessarily clarified. They are all under the same broader umbrella, but there are specific meanings that go along with them. So as we launch into Mental Health Awareness Month, it makes sense to be more knowledgeable about the difference or distinctions in those three areas. You'll have a chance to just take a quick look at your mental health right now and know when it's time to pay attention. That is not going to be diagnostic in any way, shape, or form. It's sort of a visual inspection. And then look at 9 key ways to take care of your own mental health and strategies for owning your feelings. So that is quite a list for today as we launch our recognition of Mental Health Awareness Month at JC Hart. So let's keep going. You have a handout that is the roadmap to mental health. And I matched the slides to that handout because it's really done well. And you can go online to the Mental Health Coalition and see a lot of additional related materials, tools, information. And I thought this was really good, and it's very accessible. And so it's also something that could be shared with others very, very easily. Because oftentimes when we think about the whole arena of mental health awareness, it's not only for ourselves, but it's also for those we love and care about around us. So think about ways to be intentional in sharing information if you think it would be of relevance or interest to those around you. We know that mental health is all around us, and it's often misunderstood. And so one of the big words that's being used around Mental Health Awareness Month is demystification. And so that's where we're going to start. If I can advance. All right. So this is, again, on your handout. Wanted to make it real easy for you to just pay more attention to considering this information as it applies to you or others, as opposed to jotting it down. So hopefully this will make it pretty easy. Looking at the top left corner, what is mental health? So let's just make sure that we've laid down that definition. And it is your general sense of emotional, psychological, and cognitive well-being. Okay? Emotional, psychological, and cognitive well-being. So everyone has mental health every day, but a lot of times what we do is we don't pay attention to it, or we don't think about it unless something is wrong. And that is really contrary to what makes the most sense when it comes to mental health. This is very much like your physical health. You know, it's real easy to go along and perhaps not engage in the healthiest habits and then suddenly have something go wrong and have to do something drastic about it. And that happens all the time. I've done that. I'm sure most people on the call have at some time in their life done, engaged in unhealthy practices, even if it's just like, not eating nutritiously or not getting a refreshing and appropriate level of sleep. And so we can go along with those things for a period of time. And then when something goes wrong and our personal care provider says, hey, wait, stop, time out, we've got to take a look at this. You're going to have an intervention of some sort. Perhaps it is a medication, perhaps it's surgery, perhaps it's a change in life habits. Then it gets our attention. And so mental health is the same thing. We go along not thinking about it. And then if something goes seriously wrong or even significantly wrong, and we are, impacted by that, or those around us are impacted by that, it gets our attention. So the thing to think about today is prevention. What are the kinds of things that we can do? And that's what we've been talking about all through Resiliency Champions, is what are better, stronger practices that we can engage in to manage our energy and to focus our energy in areas that it'll matter most. So think of all of that as applying in the area of mental health. So if you look under the pink bar where it says mental health, it's an umbrella term, and it captures everything from just your daily mood to severe distress. It's always fluctuating, and 100% of people have mental health every day. So we can think about removing the stigma that goes along with that, because 100% of people around the world have mental health every day. And if you look at each of these columns, it gives you a breakdown on mental illness versus mental well-being versus mental fitness. And you'll see that with mental illness, that is a clinical term that describes a specific condition. And mental illness can impact mood, it can impact behavior, thinking, and basically it will interfere with daily life functioning in some way, shape, or form. And mental illness can arise on either an acute, like a short-term basis, or it can be more chronic. And we know from the statistics that 50% of people will experience mental illness at some point in their life. So it's much more common, perhaps, than what we may think. Contrasting that then with mental well-being, that's a strengths-based term. And that is a description of our emotional and cognitive wellness. And mental well-being can coexist with mental illness. And a lot of people don't think about that. So it's not just the cup is completely full or the cup is completely empty. It can be a blend of these. And our mental well-being tends to be fueled or encouraged by a sense of belonging. You know, as human beings, we're made to connect, we're made to belong, and a sense of connection and meaning or purpose in life. And then finally, if we look at mental fitness, that is a much more contemporary term. It's really evolving. But it really refers to purposefully taking care of your mental health. So what are the practices? What are the things that I can do that really help take care of my mental health? So this is like getting on the front side of it. And that includes a lot of the practices that we have been talking about through Resiliency Champions. And it gives you some examples here, like mindfulness, physical exercise, self-care practices like nutrition. We're all working on that through Choose to Lose right now. And so we think of mental fitness as sort of a corollary or a parallel to physical fitness. And it's really important to invest through more of a wellness perspective. So hopefully, understanding these three terms can help you as you think about what your focus is, and even more importantly, how you communicate about mental health, because they all fit under the umbrella of mental health. And it's really important, if we're going to reduce the stigma of mental illness, if we're going to create opportunities to talk more about mental health, that we understand these distinctions between mental illness, mental well-being, and mental fitness, and understand that they are referring to different things that are related, not the same thing. So hopefully that's helpful to you in that way. And I also mentioned that there would be an opportunity to just take a little quick visual inspection of where you think you are with your mental health right now. We know that mental health is a moving target. It changes from day to day. And that's just part of what it is to be human. So there's categories here across the page, and you can mark, circle the words that would be true for you. It ranges from in crisis on the far left to excelling on the far right. And what I really like about this, it's not probably how I would design an assessment, because it doesn't really work quite that way. I think you'll notice that, but it is a nice visual inspection. And I love the words. Am I excelling today? Am I thriving today? Am I surviving today? Am I struggling today? Or am I in crisis? And kind of pinpointing where you might be on a day-to-day basis can help you think about ways to manage your energy and your emotions on any particular day, whether it's a work day or a weekend day, or a day off. So if you look at the words that are under there, chances are there are words under different categories that describe where you are right now. And my suggestion is that you take a few minutes to circle the words that are true of you right now. This is just like taking your temperature. Okay, this isn't diagnostic in any way, shape, or form. It's just where am I right now? So I'm going to pause for a moment to give you a chance to circle the words that describe where you are right now. Okay, and as you are circling or marking those words, you should be able to see that the words that you marked are clustering under a particular descriptor or a couple of descriptors. I can tell you in the spirit of transparency, I looked at this morning again. I've been kind of monitoring myself day to day, and today I am falling across surviving and thriving. I've got some good thriving stuff going on, and I've got some surviving stuff going on. And as I think about that, what I start to think about is what do I need to do to move toward excelling? Because, of course, that's where we all would love to live, but we don't live there every day. It's just not like that. That is not real life, and it's not something we should expect. Definitely something to enjoy when it's there. But it wouldn't probably be reasonable to think that we would go to one place and always be there. So wherever you are, it's okay. And a question that you can ask yourself is, what do I need to do to move toward? And don't go up several categories, just toward the next category or the next category. What do I need to do to get there? And so I can look at where I am with, surviving and thriving. And I know that some of it for me are some things that I can course correct on this weekend. I can't really course correct on them today. And I know that. So I will live in the surviving and thriving space, straddling those two lanes. And there are some things that I can do this weekend, though, to help correct the part that is surviving to at least get into thriving. So hopefully that helps in the way you might be thinking about your quick tab on your mental health and your results from this chart. And you can use this on a daily basis to kind of put words to what you might be thinking, and then to think about, well, what's just one thing I could do differently? Today or tomorrow coming up to make a difference. So for me, I am not getting enough hours of sleep. And so I know that that is something I need to course correct on this weekend. So there's a real tangible example for you. All right. Moving down then, there's two lists on that handout that I think are really excellent. In particular, signs that it's time to pay attention to your mental health. So based on the visual inspection you just did, the next level to go to is, are any of these things or a combination of these things true for you? And these things can be very invisible. So we want to bring them to the surface. And the way to do that is to give them words or language or descriptors, and to do so in a way that is simple and not intimidating or overwhelming. So this is a great list, and this has to do with more pervasive kinds of struggles. So it's not just a struggle today, it was a struggle yesterday as well. Thinking more like that. And if you have any or a combination of these symptoms, if you will, then it's probably time to really start to invest more in your mental health. How do we do that? Well, we've been talking about ways to do that through Resiliency Champions. And there's a list of 9 key practices. So if you want to just boil all that down to things that have been found to be very effective, you've got 9 key practices on the right here in the yellow section. And some of these might fit for you, some of these might not fit for you. There really isn't a one size fits all mental fitness list, but there are some general categories or practices, and these are, cover a lot of those. So take a look and see if there's something there that you can do in the next day or two to kind of just make a difference in either the signs list or the symptoms list that you just took a look at, or those categories of moving from surviving to thriving to excelling, or moving out. If you're in crisis, that's a different thing. You need to get help right now. And we'll touch on how to do that at the conclusion of our time together. So take a moment, look at signs that it's time to pay attention to your mental health, look at key ways to take care of your mental health. What's one thing that you could do differently or do more of or continue to do that can make a difference for you? All right. So now I thought what would be helpful is to dig into the feeling or emotional side of mental health, because it's really interesting. If you think about it, we learn some really basic feeling words when we're young, mad, sad, glad. Um, One of my sons always said, mad, sad, glad, bad. It was just like, it was almost a one word consisting of these words chained together. Are you happy? Are you sad? And so there isn't oftentimes a time in life where we are intentionally taught additional feeling words. And yet, as the fast facts on this sheet will tell you, the English language has over 3,000 words that describe emotions. And so if we're typically using, like, let's just say we use 20 of those, which is probably an overestimate, we're missing out on a lot of words to describe how we're feeling and our emotions. So I thought that it would be important for us to just spend a few minutes thinking about these words and what you can do with a better vocabulary, a stronger vocabulary that ties to both positive feelings and emotions as well as negative feelings and emotions, because we're human beings and we have both. So it's really helpful to be specific. And if you look again at the fast facts, this is so compelling. It says people who are good at being specific about identifying and labeling their emotions are less likely to binge drink, be physically aggressive, or self-injure when distressed. Well, if there is a rationale for increasing your feeling and emotional word vocabulary, it's right there. It can be very productive. It is a part of mental fitness. And the other tip that's on there I thought was interesting about school age kids. So if you have school age kids in your life, you might want to take a quick peek at that. But let's talk about the tips for success. So what do we do? How do we own our feelings? Because that is really important as a mental fitness kind of strategy. So first of all, if you look down the tips for the success, the first one says, allow yourself to feel. how many times do we just sort of repress or, shove down our feelings and say, well, I got to just like buck it up and be strong here. I just got to, there's no time for that right now. Well, that blunting your feelings over time can have really negative impacts on our mental health and on our physical health. So it's okay to feel. And even the negative feelings that we don't want, I think there's a lot of energy that comes through social media now that sort of looks like there is an ability for us to just be happy all the time and not experience negative feelings. And then, of course, you see some of the posts and you realize, oh, people are experiencing negative feelings, but I don't know if they're allowing themselves to really feel that or if it's just like they're throwing that out on top of everybody else. The second one, don't ignore how you're feeling goes right along with that. So don't bottle up, allow yourself to feel those feelings. We are created with a range of emotions and feelings, and being in touch with those, even when they hurt, even when it's miserable, is really critical to our overall mental fitness. And then talk it out. And talk it out. And what I always suggest when you talk something out with someone is that you check certain things. Is it the right time to talk it out? There are a lot of times in life where it's just not the right time to talk it out. We have to kind of put a pin in it, but do so knowing that you're going to intentionally come back to it. So is it the right time? Is it the right place? Sometimes we start sharing and we're not in a place of privacy, and that can be a real issue. So we want to think about, is it the right place? Is it the right audience? Think about who you're talking to. What's your expectation for that person? Because the last thing you want to do is just dump on them, but you may need to vent, and that's okay. We have something at JC Hart Company called upfront contracts. And if you're going to talk it out, put an upfront contract in place so that expectations are shared in advance. I know you can't fix this. I just need someone to hear me out. It's going to help me figure out what I need to do next, for example, instead of just starting in and venting and the other person feels very dumped on. I'm sure everybody has had that experience in life where you're like, I feel really bad for you and I have no idea what it is you need or want me to do. So talk it out and make sure you have an upfront contract in place. I've mentioned journaling before, and a lot of you have heard me talk about journaling. You can journal your feeling words. So there on the back side or the second page of this handout, there are all those feeling words. Try journaling. And with that, you'll see that they give you a little formula. So I felt sad when whatever happened or I took whatever action, but what I was really feeling was, and then you go deeper into what you were really feeling. That is a great way to journal. And I would really encourage you guys, even if you've never journaled, do this for like 2 weeks until we meet again and just go a little deeper. I felt mad when this happened, or I took this action, but what I was really feeling, and put those words to it. That will increase your vocabulary, and it's the best way to do it. And if you don't like to do journaling in writing, then just record it for yourself. All right, and then consider the strength of your feelings, because the intensity really matters. And by thinking about that, you may realize that, what you're really feeling is more intense or less intense than the feeling word that you're using. So you're trying to get that a little more accurate. And I love the example they give. They say, for instance, sometimes a person might say they're stressed when what they're really experiencing is something less severe, like annoyance. Or anger might really be the stronger, deeper feeling, or it might be betrayal. So any of those words are much more descriptive and can help you determine a roadmap to address them than just saying I'm stressed. And everybody says they're stressed all the time, so nobody knows what that means anymore. That's a huge area of mutual mystification. And then finally, see our refer yourself to our EAP, see a mental health professional. There are online resources as well, and I gave you one right in this handout. If you are struggling, you can go to the Mental Health Association screening.org and check your symptoms. And It's confidential and it's anonymous. So if this is triggering things for you and you're thinking, oh my goodness, where do I go from here? You can pursue the resources that I'm giving you today. You can get a free confidential assessment online. You can pursue our EAP services. They are there for you. They are confidential, or you can see a mental health professional of your choice. And please don't be afraid to do that. So that's my plug. If you're feeling lost or confused, it's okay. It can be overwhelming. Think about an action that you take. Take one step toward building yourself or getting the help that you need. And I mentioned that we have our confidential EAP for that purpose. So as we wrap up, I always remind you to start small, start somewhere as a resiliency champion. Identify your one intention for the next 2 weeks. That I think you probably have done that as we worked through these materials. And then my encouragement to you is always tell someone, because it increases your commitment to say it out loud and it increases your accountability. And then finally, I wanted to mention, I had told you guys last time that when you attend your 6th session, whether it's live or recorded, as long as you have filed the information so we know you've attended, that there would be a little gift that we would be sending out to you. So make sure that you have checked in and that Kaylee knows the sessions that you have participated in. There's a little tiny form just so we know if you are listening to a recorded version. And then we will be sending you a Have a Strong Day gift, and it's a band for your wrist. So what we're going to be doing is being very intentional through Mental Health Awareness Month and thinking about how to have a strong day. So we'll be looking at how to empower ourselves to overcome daily challenges related to anxiety and depression with mental strength. And we'll be remembering that we have control over one thing. That's our choices. We can't control our circumstances always, but we can control our choices, and we can pivot away from unhealthy practices towards strengthening and renewing our minds. And so I'm going to challenge you to wear this band and to be thinking about the fact that strength is earned one day at a time. And I will build more in this area over the next couple of weeks. And we'll be thinking together and hopefully greeting one another or encouraging one another with, have a strong day. So, oops, I forgot to change the date. Okay, well, our next session is not Friday, April 9th. Kaylee, do you have that date by chance? Let's see, when is it? The 23rd? It'll be Friday, April 23rd. I apologize, from 9:30 to 10 a.m. And we will look forward to seeing all of you at that time. If you have questions or need help or just want to run something by anyone, I'm always here for you guys. Please don't hesitate to reach out. If there's anything we can do for you, pop it into the chat or send a private message, and we will continue to build and strengthen one another as resiliency champions. So happy Friday, and to each and every one of you, have a strong day.